So guys, when I first started this channel, it was under the guise of highlighting some amazing VR experiences and of course to dispel the narrative that VR has no games. And for the most part, I'd like to think that we've done a nice job of doing just that, but like my mom always says, you can always do more. So with that being said, we are here to fight back against the notion that AAA games do not exist in VR space. Welcome to the simulation inside the simulation. I am Tooodamngolden, your VR Voyager. And today we'll be counting down the top 5 AAA VR games. So before we dive into today's countdown, I do want to mention that no ports will be present, so games like Resident Evil 4, Village, or Gran Turismo 7 will be present today, but instead of focusing on what won't be here, let's take a look at the bangers that are, starting with number 5, which is the iconic Assassin's Creed franchise's first entry into the VR space, with Assassin's Creed Nexus making its way to Quest platforms last holiday season, and this is a full-scale, old-school style Assassin's Creed game, but of course in VR, and admittedly this was a title that I was pretty skeptical about pre-launch, as there was very little in the way of gameplay or information at that point, but boy did this one hit the mark for me. So we are going to rip the band-aid off real quick by saying that this is a bit of a scaled down experience when compared to the larger open world flat entries into this game, but Assassin's Creed Nexus still provides gamers with a variety of robust maps to explore while featuring the return of fan favorite characters and providing players with their opportunity to live out their greatest parkour fantasies. This one sports a built from the ground up narrative and some pretty strong voice acting, and it also brings a surprisingly strong storyline to the table that, when combined with the excellent environments and fluid gameplay, really do mesh together to bring that true Assassin's Creed experience to the forefront. Now, in terms of shortcomings with this one, the combat, pretty much like every other Assassin's Creed title, is pretty mundane at best and outright tedious and annoying at worst, and of course the occasional visual hiccup is not particularly uncommon with this one, but to me that realistic feeling that jumping across rooftops provides, or the detail that went into making this a pretty interactable world, as well as the obviously big budget that went into the fantastic writing staff, make Assassin's Creed Nexus not only an amazing experience that you should be playing right now if you haven't done so already, but it also locks in its spot at number 5 on today's countdown. So the number 4 game on today's countdown, Lone Echo, is a game that I've mentioned a few times previously on this channel, and that is absolutely for a good reason, as one of the earliest AAA hits to grace VR platforms is still to this day a top tier VR title, proving that taking the time to craft a unique and memorable experience is something that will ultimately be rewarded in the long run. Lone Echo tells the story of a service android named Jack who is serving aboard the Kronos 2 mining station, and during this one, players will embark on a pretty emotional journey to locate and save Jack's captain and, dare I say, friend Olivia Rhodes, following the arrival of an unknown enemy ship and the destruction of the Kronos 2 mining facility itself, separating the pair in the process. Now, what follows is both a visual and technical VR marvel that has players traveling throughout space and exploring a range of space vessels, outposts, and mining stations, and a pretty significant plot twist that really brought this narrative to life during the end. Of course, I'm not going to spoil that now, but while on the topic of this narrative, this one was absolutely outstanding and was really one of the first VR titles to introduce us to a full-scale, cohesive storyline with a very strong voice acting cast, especially from the leads Alice Courthand and Troy Baker, who voiced Olivia and Jack respectively, and honestly still to this day stands as a testament to what VR storytelling should and can be, albeit with a bit of a pacing issue being present. But I cannot say enough great things about this game, guys, as it truly is one of the most important releases in modern VR gaming history, with innovations in locomotion, user interface, and of course environmental interaction all being achieved with this one, and paving the way for many new VR experiences to truly flourish, much like this title is flourishing in at number 4 on today's countdown. So in at number 3 on today's countdown is the newest game that will make an appearance today, Asgard's Wrath 2, which is the direct sequel to 2019's critically acclaimed Asgard's Wrath, and this, my friends, is the premier title for Quest headsets. with Asgard's Wrath 2 having arguably the largest gathering of VR talent simultaneously working on one project, which allowed for the attention to detail that went into crafting this one to absolutely shine through. Asgard's Wrath 2 takes place directly after the events of its predecessor, and this adventure will see players using the Cosmic Guardian to assume the role of 4 mortals all on their own individual quests, which is a nice touch that really does prevent this title from dragging on, and it keeps things remarkably fresh throughout, almost as if you get the pleasure of getting a brand new game with each character each time. And for me, my favorite thing is that each one of these mortals has their own unique abilities and different weapons that really does switch up the playstyle that you will use during this experience, and it allows for a wide variety of ways to dispatch enemies, which of course is always fun, particularly in VR. And with regards to the overall gameplay, this game is absolutely fantastic, folks, and it may quite possibly be the smoothest quest title that I've played thus far, as everything from movement to climbing and of course combat in this one are buttery smooth and fluid, which to me is one of the main components that truly does separate an elite RPG from a good one. And it is this combat that without a doubt steals the show, as Asgard's Wrath 2 balances a nice arcade style of fighting with solid physics engine that really only enhances the overall immersion that much more. And there is a little bit of something for everybody in this game, as Sanzaru has done a nice job of mixing in a fair bit of puzzle mechanics that flow very well within the overarching narrative. And this, in tandem with the scale and grandiosity of it all, just works very well to create a unique and memorable AAA VR experience, and it is definitely deserving of the number 3 spot on today's countdown. So I'm going to take this moment to be completely transparent. The game in at number 2 on today's countdown is one that I was very late on, as Stormland is the brainchild of the same development team behind some of the original PlayStation's earliest hits like Spyro, Ratchet & Clank, as well as the Resistance series, and the critically acclaimed Spider-Man games of the past few years, guys. And when I say I can't believe that I had never played this game until this year, I truly do mean it. Stormland is a first-person action-adventure game that has you playing as Vesper, an android tasked with maintaining the botany on an alien planet, that is, until said planet was attacked by a mysterious faction dubbed the Tempest. And while decently written, the storyline of this one is most definitely not the main draw at all, with the bulk of the emphasis being placed on the open-world exploration aspects of this title, with gamers also possessing the ability to freely climb virtually any surface, upgrade between a host of weapons and gadgets, as well as utilize various augmentations to Vesper himself in his quest to defeat the Tempest. Now, to me, the interesting thing about Stormland is the universal shift anomaly that occurs after completing each section of the game, with everything from the enemies to the actual environment shifting into a completely random procedurally generated new world chock full of new things to explore, which to me is a nice element that was added that really keeps players on their toes. Something else that I thought was actually pretty interesting this one was the methodology for upgrading your gear and weapons, as enemies drop various alloy resources that can be collected, in addition to not only finding alloy caches around in the wild, but you can also scrap your guns that have run out of ammo or that you simply don't want anymore in exchange for that sweet alloy, before popping over to that good old fabricator to process new and powerful tools to defeat the Tempest. The world design, movement, and combat in this one are absolutely stellar, and I now understand why so many VR gamers were genuinely excited about this one being brought back to the Meta Store, as for the first moment that I dove into this one, I could really tell that I was in for something special, and ladies and gentlemen, this one did not disappoint me one bit. And for those reasons and so many more, Stormland has crash landed at number 2 on today's countdown. So before we get to our number 1 game on today's countdown, I did just want to highlight a few honorable mentions that didn't exactly make it on today's list. So guys, once again, another best of VR list is here, and the best AAA VR game should not come as a surprise to anyone, as Half-Life Alyx to this day is still considered the benchmark used for comparisons to a high quality VR title. And as this is now the 4th time that Half-Life Alyx has made one of these lists, I feel that moving forward we may need to exclude this one from participating.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
As what is not to love about Half-Life Alyx, guys? AAA development from a beloved studio, we got that. Creating a new entry into an iconic franchise, we got that. And some of the best visuals achieved in VR gaming thus far. Half-Life Alyx really is one of those games that checks almost all the boxes. And truthfully, you already know the deal by now. You play as Alex Vance and are thrust into the very loved Combine-controlled City 17, and from the start, that overwhelmingly heavy wash of immersion is present as the love, time, and care taken by Valve to perfect even the most minute of details in this world are very apparent. The gameplay on this one is sharp, fluid, and quite frankly amazing, while once again the gun handling is some of the best in all of VR, and picking up items using the gravity gloves is amazing, hence why there have been so many copycat iterations of this system in VR since then, as players simply snap back their wrist towards themselves to grab interactable items in a way that just works. And there is also a nice mix of well-designed puzzles, changing the pace from time to time, keeping things fresh throughout the duration of this game's 11 chapters. And as I've said time and time before, folks, there isn't much to be said about Half-Life Alyx that hasn't already been said. If you have the ability to play this game and you have it, then you are missing out on truly something special and should do so immediately. As Half-Life Alyx still to this day is not only VR's best AAA game, but VR's best game altogether as well. Anyways guys, that just about wraps up today's video. If you did enjoy, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. As always, I am Tooodamngolden, your VR Voyager, and thanks for joining me in the simulation inside the simulation. Thank you for watching.